Well, let's keep the running theme going. Going into the lockdown, you and I kind of had similar running goals, which was to knock out every single street challenges in our local neighborhoods. Mine was to get all of West Seattle Peninsula that's within the Seattle limits. And you started, I think, doing this South Seattle, and then it's once you hit that, it's kind of grown now, and you're actually kind of targeting a larger portion of Seattle. Is that right?
I have gone down the rabbit hole. So yeah, I was slowly trying to chip away at the streets of mostly South Seattle, and for about 2 years, I had I had gotten up to about 6 or maybe 7%, and was actually looking forward to summer, thinking that I'd jump on some of the metro buses and go to other parts of town and be able to explore some more. And when that didn't happen, I started jumping on my bike and moving around and tried to get all of South Seattle. So
That's
um,
6 or 7% of the whole city of Seattle, correct?
it's yeah, 6 or 7% of the whole city.
Right.
And
Because I
so it
believe
was.
like when in March I was around 5% of the city of Seattle, and you were around that too, like 6 or 7 come March, and I think you and I both made some huge progress of the city running every single street since then. So where are you currently on your goals?
I am at about 29 and a half, almost 30% now. I just kept moving north, and was planning to stop at 90, I-90 coming across, but realized that the designation for South Seattle by streets is a little north of there. So went a little north and then just kept going. And it's been problematic since then. I now take my 4-year-old daughter out on what she calls a bike run, because we bike to a place and then run and come back, and it's starting to feel like a hash again, because in order to get a 4 mile run in, it takes a 10 mile bike ride each direction. So I'm gone again for 2.5 hours or something like that, just to run a few new
Right.
streets. But we're
And
getting there.
you rigged up a great contraction for being able to drag your daughter in her carriage on your bike, and then be able to push her in her stroller on your run.
Yeah, I've tried all sorts of different things. So when we were just running around here, I've got a Bob's jogger that just pushes and is great for that, and really love it. And then when we started going further afield, I've got a chariot that attaches to the back of the bike, and can convert to a push jogger. And then for a while, my bike was actually in the shop, and so I couldn't attach it to my regular bike. So I went to a couple of runs with her attached to the hip belt, in the chariot still, with the hip belt that's designed for cross country skiing. And I pulled the chariot behind me that way, on the bike, and then ran with her still in the cross country ski contraption, pulling it behind me. And it wasn't a total success, but we got some streets checked off.
Yeah, so we're using a website called City Strides that helps people track how much of a city they've run. Now, the one caveat of City Strides is, even though Woody, you've done 29.5% of Seattle, and I've done 22.5% of the city, we've run more of the city. That's just completed streets. So that the way that website works is there's every city has a certain number of streets, and when you get to 90% of completion of that street, it then gets counted towards a completed street. So 29.5% is 29.5% of all streets you've completed, correct?
Yeah, and so for some of them, like it's maybe 100 yard long street, quick and easy to bang that one out. But other ones are 5 miles long, and if you do 4 miles of that, you get zero credit for that street. And when you finally get that 90% of that 5 miles done, you get the same credit for that street that you do for that 100 yard street. One street is one street. Um, so it's an interesting way of counting, but it seems like an efficient way. So
Yeah,
yeah.
the only way I would maybe have done the methodology is the because the site uses nodes. Like every street has a certain number of nodes. It could be between 2 nodes, is the minimum for a street, and could be up to 300 nodes for a really long street, or even longer. The way I would probably computate what completion of of a city is just total nodes, nodes completed versus nodes, total nodes. And I think that would be a more accurate representation of how much of a city you've run than, it also weighs longer streets more, properly versus giving a two node street the same weight as a major street. So up here, a large street would be maybe like Rainier Avenue or MLK, which is miles long, and then you can get into some neighborhoods and have just a small cul-de-sac be a street.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see how some of the people who have got a pretty high percentage of streets completed live in an area where there's a lot of those really short streets. And so if you look at total area of Seattle that they've covered, it seems like they've got a much smaller area of it covered, but they've managed to get a large number of the total number of streets. So it's an interesting way to do it. At this point, I like the challenge and just go with whatever system somebody else has created. So, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of got stalled out once I finished West Seattle Peninsula, just because of accessibility outside of here. I don't like driving much, and also with our bridge being down, I've talked about it a million times on this channel. It's harder and slower to get around to the rest of the city, and with public transportation being kind of limited right now, it's tougher to get around to other parts of the city to go for a run and come back and not take all day. So I kind of like. Also, once I hit my goal of hitting off West Seattle, I kind of got demotivated for a bit too. That too.
Yeah, and for that reason, I think there are some streets in West Seattle that are closer to me than some of the ones I'm going for now. But just getting to West Seattle is such a challenge that I've been skipping those. So.
Well, if you're ever on this side of the Duwamish River, let me know, and I'll take you for a run.
Perfect. Sounds.
I know every street in the side of town.